So last night, Vicky put her foot down. Progress on the truck was halted due to curfew. So rather than push our luck, Billy and I decided just to call it quits last night around 1 in the morning, go home, get some sleep, and come back today for a fresh start. Kenny and Robbie have been here all morning. Kenny's been working on his Camaro out in the driveway, and Robbie decided now was the time to finally fix the upper radiator bracket in the S10. Now tonight there's a test and tune down at National Trail Raceway, and I plan on taking the Malibu down there, and it sounds like CJ Buckner's bringing the Mustang. But before I can go down there with the Malibu, I need to pick up some parts down at Mark's for the kids to keep them working. It is hotter than holy crap outside today, and I can't imagine how hot it's going to be down there at Trails at 5:30 when they open the place up. You rescue any cats today? Now, I couldn't help myself but to give these guys a little bit of crap over this cat rescue issue. So what are you rescuing today? Squirrels, chipmunks, cats, skunks? What about polecats? You deal with them? You better just Google that, Junior. Old Tyler didn't know what in the hell I was talking about, but that's all right. He'll figure it out. Anyway, I brought all my stuff back to the shop, and Billy and Kenny had just fired the S10 up to put some heat in it so that they can retorque the head gaskets. While they're in there working on that, Hartley backed my Malibu out underneath the shade tree and gave it a bath for me, so it would be cleaned up for tonight. And Junior's mentioned that he may bring his Mustang down now that he's done with the S10. All he's got to do is wait for this thing to cool off and tear it back down to retorque the cylinder heads. Vicky and I were busy restocking the trailer and getting coolers packed up to take with us tonight since it's so hot. Harley was just finishing up drying the Malibu off when it was time to load it in the trailer. Perfect timing. So we close up the trailer, load up the turd barrels, and we head down to the Flying J so we can put some gas in the generator and we can stock up on some ice for the coolers. Finally, it's time to pull into the track, pay our entry fees, sign the waiver, and go in and find a good pit spot. And we found one right next to CJ. I went ahead and backed the Malibu out of the trailer and started to go over everything, literally. I didn't realize Kenny put the jack behind the golf cart. Finally, it was time to take the Malibu up the staging lanes, turn in my tech card, and get ready to make my first pass. Surprisingly, even with the heat and humidity, the Malibu's throttle response feels really nice and crisp. So I go up, bump the car into the beams, and take off down the track. And everything was really good until the top of second gear. Just as I put the Malibu into high gear, the engine laid over. Seemingly, it's running out of fuel. It's out of gas.
Oh.
So we went up and made that first pass. And unfortunately, the gas gauge isn't fixed in this car yet. I don't know how much fuel's in it. But when I made that pass, it left really good. It went out into second gear and then ran out of fuel. The fuel all runs to the back of the tank and away from the pickup, so it laid down. So we're gonna put 5 gallon in it, go up and try it again. Now, I've had the Malibu do this to me before, out making test hits on the street, where if you don't have enough fuel in it, it uncovers the pickup and runs out of fuel. I figured putting 5 gallon in it should take care of the problem, but unfortunately, it did not. So I reached down, turned the air conditioning on, and I head to Hebron. The local speedway station where I always get E85 is only 3 or 4 miles away. So I just run down there with a Malibu and I figure I'll fill the tank up just to make sure that there's not going to be any problems for the rest of the evening. But when the pump stopped at under 8 gallons, I suspected I had another problem. I figure I've got enough time to make one more hit on this thing before they close the lanes, maybe 2 at the most.
Do you want to explain yourself?
The gas gauge always reads a quarter tank no matter how much fuel's in it, so let it cool off for a minute and then we'll go up and make another one.
All right.
So while I wait for the Malibu to cool off, I go over and check in with CJ and see how he's doing. And then Junior shows up with that damn Mustang. It was starting to get kind of late in the evening and I wasn't sure if he was going to make it or not. But now that he's here and we're definitely going to be able to get a grudge race in, the pressure's on for me to finally get this Malibu to go down the track without laying over. And sure enough, just as I put the shifter into high gear, the Malibu lays over again. My suspicions were correct. Still running out of fuel. I'm gonna check the fuel filter.
Something isn't right.
Something's not right. So here we are. I'm facing a grudge race with Billy and the Mustang, and all of a sudden the Malibu won't even make a full pass. Fuel filter's plugged.
Yeah, if only that could have happened while we raced.
It's completely plugged. I mean, you can't hardly see anything in it. Like, it looks clean, but you can't blow through it.
So what do we do?
Run it without a filter. You know what Uncle Bucko would say?
Lack of maintenance.
Now, there's no way in hell I'm gonna let Junior kick my ass that easy over some stupid fuel filter. I thought I had the fuel level in the tank just right to make a good solid all motor pass, keep the car as light as possible. So now it's got a full tank of fuel. According to the 60 foot, it didn't really hurt it too much. It'll probably hurt it more on the other end. Now, Billy thinks he's got this in the bag, but just in case things don't go his way, he digs into his bag of pre-race excuses.
Man, this is my first pass on a track with the car. I think this is the first time the car has actually been on a track ever.
Really?
Because the guy never took it to the track, not once.
Downplaying his own car might work on some other squirrel, but not me.
Okay, the heads came off an Explorer. The cam is a Ford Racing number cam.
This sounds
The worst
like excuses, and we haven't even
Excuse,
Makes power to
pre-race
5,500
excuses.
RPM.
raced. You are making excuses, and we haven't even raced yet. Billy's problem is I've been around a long time, and I know what a stock 302 in a Mustang runs, even as light as it is. Even with the cam, the intake, the carburetor, and the cylinder heads that are on it, it's still at a deficit. It would have to be tuned to absolute perfection, and I know it most certainly is not. At this point, I feel pretty confident, but I'm just praying to God that this fuel system problem is resolved, because I know Junior plans to leave flat foot right on the rev limiter. Unfortunately for Billy, the Mustang bogged hard off the starting line, and as soon as I clicked second gear, I never saw the Mustang again. Despite the low barometer, the heat, and the humidity, and carrying an extra 10 gallons of fuel on board, the Malibu managed to make a personal best pass in the quarter mile on motor.
Well,
Junior's got work to do.
so he was in need of those pre-race excuses.
He's got post-race excuses coming right up.
Mine dead hooked and bogged.
Dead hooked and bogged.
Yeah, 6,300.
6,300 at dead hooked and bogged.
Yeah.
You got work to do.
For it bogging, it wasn't bad. So I turned the timing down like 5 or 6 degrees because it was like really high. And now it might be a little rich. I don't know. We'll see.
So reveal the numbers. What are the numbers?
So I went a 13.16 at 104 and he went a 12.30 at 108.
So almost a full second
No,
difference.
No, like
Almost.
6/10.
Oh,
6/10.
That's technically almost a second. That's past the halfway point.
Okay, so I got a little work to do. That's the first
You got
time.
a lot of work to do.
That's the first time the car's been on the track.
Right,
ever.
your very first hit in it ever.
And it's on 28 by 9s. It's probably a little bit too much for the track, but I think it's going to work good on the street when it slips the tire a little bit.
So right after Billy and I got our Grudge race over with, the track closed the staging lanes, and CJ still needed to make a nitrous hit. And since this weekend's race is on blacktop at the back end of National Trail Raceway, CJ and I jump in the Malibu and head over to our test spot, not far from our house. The only problem is, the weather's moving in fast. There's a storm front coming, and it looks like we may only have an hour or so left before the rains come. So we all jump back in the streetcars and head right back to trails. I throw the Malibu up in the trailer, and CJ gets his car ready to load up and head over to the test spot. CJ still has to put some spark plugs in the Mustang, so I went ahead and ran our big trailer back to the house and then met the guys over at the test spot. Unfortunately, we were about 20 minutes too late. By the time we got there, the road had gotten wet and there was nothing we could do. So CJ headed back home, and Billy and I went back out to the shop to adjust the valves on the S10 and finish putting the turbo kit back on.
Bump it. Bump it. Bump it.
You doing okay?
Yeah, we're getting closer.
Dude, that was fun tonight.
Yeah. It's nice to get in some slower cars and just have fun. You know?
There's no expectations.
Yeah.
It's all just fun. Like, nobody on the internet is going to run us through the coals for losing to something. You know what I mean? Like, nobody cares. They're just slow cars. But like, I was talking to CJ on the way out to the spot tonight, and he's like, man, I wish I had a car like this that we could just like go cruise on the interstate, air conditioning on, play some music, and go out street race and drive them home.
Yeah.
You know?
That's where it's at.
I mean,
That's what got me into it, and that's when I had the most fun, to be honest.
dude, I remember cruising down to Lancaster in your S10 in this truck with the same CD player that's in the dash now, listening to the Kid Rock, you know, night air, windows down. Hell, there for a while, it had air conditioning on this. You know, it had air when we first built it, but it was just a really good time. But of course, back then we were trying to come up, you know, so everything was serious, you know, like every win meant something. And once you get to this level and like that level, it's hard.
Yeah. It's fun, but only for a split second. And it's just a lot of work.
Yeah.
And the street cars, they're fun the whole time. You know, regardless of how fast you're going. I mean, yeah, it's not as fun when it's like a 10 to 12 second pass, but it still is. You know, it's still competitive, and you know.
What's nice is you can pick up like a half a second really easy on a slow car.
Yeah. When you get to this level, picking up half a second is like, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Well, probably, you know, probably $100,000 at this point to go another second faster. But like at the level the street cars are at, you know, 10 to 12 second level, you know, $1,000 here and there. You know, you can go another second faster. It's pretty cool. That's what makes it fun. It's, you know, you see a lot of progress every time you go out.
Right. You can see a whole lot of progress every time you go out, you know, and it's a good feeling.
Yeah.
Like when you pick up 2 or 3 tenths, that's huge.
Yeah.
You know, 2 or 3 mile an hour is big.
I like being able to drive it wherever I want to go, and you get a better connection with the car when you're able to drive it, and
Yep.
you know, you go out, race it, and then the same car you just won money with, you drive it home, put it in the garage at the end of the night, give it a pat on the back, and go to bed.
Remember when we one of the very first videos you ever did was we went to Columbus. We had little mini cash days in there. Remember that?
Yeah.
And we drove this thing to the west side of Columbus and raced it, won, and drove it home. And there's like video of us driving through downtown Columbus as the sun's setting, and
Yeah, that's cool.
that was really fun back then.
That was the most fun, for sure. But at this level, it's just a lot. You know, it's just a lot. Which, don't get me wrong, it's still a lot of fun, but it takes a lot more work. And it's not near as enjoyable, you know, when things aren't going right.
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, you came here today and you were really grumpy. I don't know why you was really grumpy, but you was really grumpy. And I didn't say nothing, I let it go. But I can tell sometimes you get frustrated. It's hard. I get frustrated. It's hard, you know. But luckily we got a lot of people here helping us, you know.
Yeah. It definitely makes it a little bit easier.
Like, Rob was here all day, and then he was here until, what, 10 o'clock?
Yeah. I mean, there's something going on in the shop 24 hours a day, pretty much.
Yeah. There's either...
Like, somebody's here working on shit.
Yeah, there's somebody either here working on a car or editing or filming or doing merchandise over on the other side, answering emails. Like, this place, it's lucky if the lights get shut off and the air conditioning gets shut off in here for like 2 or 3 hours out of every 24. It's nonstop. It runs nonstop. But beats the hell out of digging ditches.
Yeah.
All right, guys, so we're about done for tonight as far as doing video work. I've still got to go in and edit and finish up some voiceovers. Tess and Tony are going to be here tomorrow. They're going to be here around 6 o'clock. We're going to pick them up at the airport. And I think Tony and I are going to try and help CJ with his Mustang a little bit. He's coming back tomorrow, and we're going to work on it here at the shop a little bit. And Tony would like to try and help him a little bit. And we're going to try and get CJ's car as good as we can get it for this weekend. I'd really like to see him do well. CJ and Billy and I have all been friends for a very long time, and CJ is doing everything the hard way. People don't understand how extremely difficult I told him tonight it's 3 times more difficult to compete on small tires with a small block nitrous engine like what he's doing. It's 3 times harder than methanol and turbos. You know, Billy will run spark plugs for 6 months. CJ, you know, the whole reason we didn't get to make that test on the street tonight is because he had to put spark plugs in that car before he made a nitrous pull. He had to have 8 brand new plugs in it. He's going to unload it and make a lick, cut it off, and pull plugs at the end of the road in the dark. It's what you got to do, you know, and it's hard. It's really hard, especially for him because he's pretty much by himself almost all the time. Bill's there to help him with, you know, pouring puddles and backing up and everything, but the vast majority of the wrenching and everything is handled strictly by CJ, all by himself for the most part. So it's tough. And if he lived closer, he would definitely probably be here more often because we really like him and we really like helping him, and we really like to see him do well. So that's coming tomorrow. Tess and Tony will be here. The white Mustang's coming out here. We've got a whole bunch of parts sitting back here. Tony, it looks like Christmas back here. He's got all kind of stuff. I don't even know. TBM brakes, a new clutch, and I don't know what all he's got back here, but there's boxes all over the place. So we're going to do some work on Tess and Tony's Mustang. We're going to try and get Billy's truck finished up, and we need to do a little testing on both the S10 and CJ's Mustang. And so we've got a lot of work to do before the weekend yet, but we got a lot of good people here to help us. So see y'all maybe tomorrow. We'll see what happens. We'll maybe try and get a video up again tomorrow if possible. Good night, everybody. Thank you for watching.